It's done! The battle is over! That's right, the biggest news ever in the OGL scandal has just dropped. And the news is, the OGL scandal is kind of over. This is genuinely an announcement that I didn't really see coming. I thought that Wizards of the Coast were gonna go down with the ship on this one, but it seems not. It seems cooler heads have prevailed. So what is going on? Well, okay, so if you need a quick catch up on the saga, after the disastrous OGL change attempt from Wizards of the Coast, they recently issued out a survey and a new version of the OGL 1.2. Now, I'm on record as saying that I don't think that OGL 1.2 was very good, and it seems like most of the community agree with me, because Wizards of the Coast have published the survey results. And oh boy, yeah, it's pretty massive. So they've said to us that over 15,000 people have filled out the survey about OGL 1.2, and the numbers here are pretty nuts in terms of the percentages. Wizards have revealed 88% of people do not want to publish tabletop role-playing game content under the OGL 1.2. This is not a surprise because the terms on OGL 1.2 are pretty garbo. I'm actually kind of surprised that 12% of people were like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm happy enough with you guys just rescinding my ability to do so at any time. Or maybe they were just Hasbro employees that had to answer. 90% of respondents would have to change some aspect of their business to accommodate OGL 1.2. Of course they would. The legal terms for third-party content creators were pretty onerous. 89% were dissatisfied with the deauthorizing of the OGL 1.0a. This is massive. So this was the huge problem that a lot of people had with the original changes to the OGL, to the Open Gaming License for D&D. So much content had been created under the original OGL terms to then go forward and deauthorize it for anything moving forward meant that basically content creators were being held hostage by Wizards of the Coast. They were being forced to acknowledge and agree to whatever new terms that Wizards of the Coast decided was, well, good for them. And surprise, surprise, most content creators thought the new terms were not good for them, Cotton. There is another little survey result here, a little sneaky one. 86% are dissatisfied with the draft virtual tabletop policy. This is actually massive. I was planning a whole video on this topic, but you know, as you'll see in a second, I'm guessing I don't need to anymore. 62% are satisfied with including the SRD, the Systems Reference Document, content in Creative Commons, and the majority of those who were dissatisfied asked for more SRD content and Creative Commons. So yeah, it turns out that people were annoyed about the system reference document being in the Creative Commons, but like kind of in the opposite direction from what Wizards would have wanted. They want more stuff opened up to the public. This is really cool. I'm not gonna lie. This is like a very nice set of responses. Just to give you guys a bit of an idea, survey responses that are this definite, like this close to almost 100%, almost unanimous disapproval of changes. That's pretty massive. That's very unusual. So Kyle Brink has made a post about this. Kyle Brink is the executive producer of Dungeons and Dragons. They have essentially acknowledged these changes, and as they say, the feedback is in such high volume and the direction is so plain that they're acting now. And what are they doing? Well, the community wins, guys. They are leaving OGL 1.0a in place as it is, untouched. We're reverting back. They're doing a time warp. We're just going back in time. We're taking a couple of little steps backwards and we're going back to the way things were before all the drama and the scandal. Can we all just talk about GM advice again? I'm genuinely ecstatic about this. I really am happy. So let's talk about this. Firstly, this is a massive step back from Wizards of the Coast. A good step back, but it's a huge retreat from them. I was pretty critical of some people in the past saying that they had retreated with 1.2, but this time they really have. This time they're just wiping the slate clean, just trying to go back to normal. And I'm genuinely incredibly shocked and surprised. This is not usual from corporate actors, honestly. You don't often see corporations just walk this back. Now, this might have a little bit of something to do. Hasbro recently laid off a bunch of employees. This is like really good news to come on the back of that really bad news. And I don't know if the timing is related at all, but nevertheless, the actual decision making here is really good. Not the layoffs, they're bad, but the OGL 1.2, mwah. good riddance. I'm so happy about this. So why are they doing this though? Well, I suspect that there was probably an executive somewhere that had like a target on their back. They were like, okay, right, okay guys, not fooling now. But obviously the community was a huge part of this as well. We saw almost a universal criticism of Wizards of the Coast changes to the OGL, and everybody rallied in a really big way. I think that Wizards of the Coast actually were pretty frightened as a company. I think that Hasbro realized the existential dread that many of us feel when we play games like Call of Cthulhu. There was a moment there where it looked like Wizards of the Coast, where D&D was going to lose its kind of cultural relevancy, its centralized position in the role-playing game hobby. That was pretty insane. Now, it wouldn't have been the first time that this happened, but I suspect that Wizards, some heads over there might have remembered what happened during 4th edition D&D, which was not a great time for Dungeons and Dragons. So you had the community turning against Wizards of the Coast, but then not only that, but you had other rival companies ready to capitalize on this problem. Paizo came out with the Orc license. Bam! That was huge! Suddenly you had all of these different companies joining together to kind of fight the monopoly of Dungeons and Dragons. And there was a huge appetite. We saw numbers for Pathfinder were through the roof, for Call of Cthulhu through the roof. On Amazon, Pathfinder sales had absolutely dwarfed Dungeons and Dragons sales. There was a huge mobilization from the community to support these other companies, and those other companies were just all getting on board with the competitors for Wizards of the Coast. And I think that has really frightened them. Really frightened them. And good as well. I think that they have learned a little bit of humility here, a little bit of a lesson in how strong their grip on the hobby actually is. Which is to say, not hugely, you know, most people play D&D out of mostly inertia and brand recognition. So I'm really glad to see that there's going to be a release of all of this OGL change. I think this is a brilliant step in the right direction, backwards basically. And I just think this is massive, absolutely huge. And I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked. It's so rare for us to see companies actually take feedback and move forward. I actually think this is a really good reflection on Wizards of the Coast. I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't have thought I would be saying something like that last week. Now, all that said, Kyle Brink does mention that their goal with the OGL was to protect the D&D play experience, etc. Maybe. I'm still a little bit cynical about the actual reasons for them, because we know that they want to monetize the game. I suspect that there was a magnifying glass placed over this entire process because of the arrival of 1D&D in the future. Right now, Dungeons and Dragons is incredibly vulnerable, like more vulnerable than it ever would be otherwise. This was strategically a pretty bad time to implement a change like this, one that could alienate the audience, because soon enough, Wizards of the Coast are going to be asking a lot of players to actually move from one system, 5th edition, to another, 1D&D. And considering that the community mobilized in such a hugely activist way, we had thousands and thousands of people canceling their D&D Beyond subscription, that's money that Wizards utterly lost. And also people who were going to move from D&D Beyond into the new 1D&D system, oof, that's gotta hurt their numbers in terms of take-up. So I think there's a little bit of a strategic misstep there from Wizards of the Coast. Now, that all said, as happy as I am, I think we do have to remember one really important thing. This happened. They did try to deauthorize the original OGL. This is what they originally wanted, and they still, to be perfectly frank, probably still want to do this. It was only because of the community and the pushback and the fact that we came together as a community that this was prevented, that it was halted. This was more of a case that we kind of held the walls, right? This wasn't like there wasn't an army there in the first place. They did show up to play. They had trebuchets and stuff. It was pretty insane, but the walls held, and they could come back. Like this could change again, and we could see something like this in another couple of years. They could be biding their time. Chris Cox could be in a tower right now, kind of leering over a scrying orb, you know? A couple more years. So we just gotta keep vigilant about this sort of thing. But still, all the same, this is a victory. We should enjoy this. Really happy to see that Wizards of the Coast did walk this back, and I'm really proud of the community, honestly. I really am. And that's it. I hope a couple of things stick. I hope a couple of people picked up some RPGs that they enjoy. I hope there's some tables out there that are playing some alternative games. And in fact, if you do want to try some games that aren't Dungeons and Dragons, now why not check out this video here? And as always, a huge thanks to my patrons, especially Sonic Bread and Crypto Kev. And I'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye!